Welcome back to another edition of the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We appreciate all of you tuning in. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
Good afternoon. Here it is February already, and
Whoa.
we're just getting around to our first podcast of 2025. You had some much-deserved time off, Alan.
Yeah, Elizabeth and I took a 2-week vacation. I think it was, I can't think of another 2-week vacation that I've ever taken. So, yipes. But, when you're just 39, it doesn't matter,
All
whatever.
the time in the world. And in the newsletter, now in its 13th year, and you're not superstitious, right? So you are saying 13th year.
I guess I thought about it, but yeah, why not? Look, we need to be factual.
Right.
Okay.
Well, in it, you say with all the disruption associated with AI and DeepSeek, you're substantially changing your approach with your students this spring. Tell us about that. Tell us about that. You're also talking about a new editor, AI editor.
Yeah, I guess even I have to change. I think I missed a memo or two, and the whole world. I take a 2-week vacation, and the world advances, a millennium ahead of me. So I'm here rapidly trying to catch up with what's going on. I mean, I guess it's. I've always let the students use whatever code they could find. I wanted them to add to it, create something new. Don't redo what's already existing. So, take your code snippets or whatever. If they're open source, use them. But I guess we're really into it now because now an AI might suggest and do stuff for us, and it's about time. It's about time that I change. And so, begrudging. I don't not really begrudgingly. I'm looking forward to learning. Woo! Can't wait to be more creative. Yipes! I might finally be creative. Whoa!
And this AI editor is called Cursor that you're going to open the door for them to use.
Geez, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're better. Maybe again, I haven't read the memos or something that there are better ones out there. But this one, in my first look, it looks like why not? Hey, maybe something better will come out. I mean, some people might think I'm still using APL. APL, a programming language. Well, it was the programming language of programming. Whatever. Never mind. I digress.
It is interesting. I mean, I've been doing for the last few weeks a weekly wrap up of my Textination reports and interviews using Google's Notebook LM.
Okay.
It takes it and has 2 AI hosts create a podcast talking about all of the reports and interviews from the previous week, a conversational kind of thing. It's pretty wild.
So wait, Fred, you're not doing it. It's doing it.
It does that. And
yeah,
if I choose to, I can join in the discussion with these AI personalities who are unnamed, unnamed the way they do it. But I'll have to send you a link so you can give it a listen. It's
I guess if you found the interviews intriguing.
Well, what they have done, they're not doing the interviews. They are going through my material and having a discussion, an AI man and AI woman, in quotes here, discussing back and forth the various interviews and reports from the previous week. And
okay. And what's their discussion been like?
It's interesting. Some of it has been spot on, but occasionally there are some miscues. But for the most part,
just occasionally, really?
Yes, it's very good overall. And
wow, okay.
And they get off topic. For instance, this past one I put online, they discuss the value because I had talked about the AI created podcasts. They had a discussion about the AI created podcasts and going with some back and forth between them on the value of that and et cetera. So,
okay, I guess. Did they give new insight? Did you
In
learn?
in some cases, they talk about the impact of AI overall, and
No. About no new insights on your podcast, not about AI, but your podcast on I don't know.
they raise some questions about some of the topics that are brought up in the podcast. So in the interviews
Hmm.
that I've put online,
Maybe we should ask them to comment on our podcast.
you
I
can do
wonder,
that.
would they understand anything we go so far? Yeah, do one.
We'll give that a shot.
We'll give that a shot. I don't know. Hey, maybe it's time for us all to give up.
Yeah, I mean, people I play it for, they say, is your job in jeopardy? I said, maybe. So we'll see.
Boy, wouldn't it be nice if it took my job and did all the things we want to do? Then
Uh,
we wouldn't have to do it.
would it? I don't know.
I mean, I've been begging Waymo to just do it, but we'll comment on what Waymo's doing and why I continue to roll my eyes.
Shortly. And you also mentioned that HandyRides Inc. now exists. It's given
Yeah,
some rides, and it's there.
yeah. I guess after who knows how many years of talking the talk, I'm finally started walking the walk, at least in this area. Who I gave some rides. I gave some affordable, high quality rides. Look at that. I actually did it instead of just talking about it. Ooh, I guess people out there will be amazed. Wow.
And stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Ooh,
In the newsletter, Alan, you highlight a piece from the New York Times about women becoming motorcycle taxi drivers in Kenya. And they talk about one
wow.
in particular here.
Wow. I mean, we're trying to address a mobility problem here. They looked at a mobility challenge there and came up with a fabulous solution. Wow. How creative. How creative at creating win across the board. Wow. I know it's behind a paywall or something like that, or maybe they'll break it out from under. I mean, doesn't the New York Times make enough money on advertising? But my goodness, uh, finally a good article in the New York Times. Wow.
They also had a piece which you have in the newsletter, headlined "Caution Ahead: Vietnam's drivers are suddenly following the rules."
What
And
an experience we had in Vietnam. I mean, it's amazing. You know, traffic flow on streets are 7, 10 to 1. Motorbikes versus cars. Average vehicle occupancy on a motorbike. As I was, just looking and counting, it's, equivalent to what it is in cars. Certainly in cars in the United States. I mean, there's some of them have 4 people on them doing all kinds of stuff, just moving people in a
and probably
road
goods too,
capacity,
right?
that you'd have to have who knows how you'd have to have 405s everywhere just doing it. And Elizabeth and I learned how to scoot across the street. They're crosswalks, but many of them don't have a traffic light. But if you just go across, they all like scoot around you, and you just don't jerk them, because they all figure out where you are and whatever, and just scoot right around you. We never saw them hit anybody. Never saw a crash. Not how many observations did we make? Not all that many, I guess. But the darn thing just works. Wow.
A lot of people, a
and
lot
and
of
of
goods moving all at the same time, and
goods, people, whatever, in limited capacity, with limited capacity, doing just fine. Thank you. and nobody honking or nobody, and it was just so invigorating. And and of course, none of them had LiDAR. I mean, amazing. None of them had NVIDIA chips, and just providing mobility to folks. Now they do have a challenge, because I suspect that if anybody is really looking at their phones, you can't do it. Where anybody is really, you know, inebriated, can't do it. I mean, just, oh. And of course, apparently the article did find, we didn't see it. I didn't experience it, of course. We made it back. But, if you look at our challenge, our safety challenge here in the United States, our safety challenge is this and this. And we know how to deal with this. It knows where I'm sitting, or it should know where I'm sitting. When in a car, has a camera. Should know with extremely high probability. And it knows if I'm moving. Moving plus behind wheel equals, I hope I'm driving. At least nothing out there drives itself yet. And why does it allow me to look to turn it on when I'm moving? It asks me to lie. Now, of course, I never lie.
Well, it's interesting.
And with respect to the inebriation, we've had breathalyzers and the ignition controls for vehicles for how long? And yet, so our safety challenge is really a misbehavior challenge that somehow over the past 13 years, we thought that, oh my goodness, we're going to have technology solve it for us. Well, I guess how close we are now after all these years. After, whatever the McKinsey number is, 300 billion has been spent on it. Nowhere, or infinitesimally where. And so if we really want to deal with the safety challenge, thinking that, technology is going to solve our way out of this thing anytime soon, I guess that was the previous administration's thoughts. I have no idea what this administration's going to think. I mean, who knows where they're coming from? But hopefully they'll, if it's a safety question, deal with it. And the safety issue is this and this. And of course, making sure you do this.
With the phones on, we should point out that Tesla does watch if you're using FSD, and if you pick up the phone.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't want to start talking about Tesla. Then everybody, Tesla, yeah, they're the, everybody, whatever. Let's not talk about any of them. Whatever. Sure. I don't want to get. Hey, the problem is a behavioral problem, and if we really want to deal with it, if that's the problem with respect to safety, then do it. Mothers Against Drunk Driving certainly would support that. How long have they been out there?
Right.
There's
a piece in AI, publication from Timothy Lee, titled, "I Don't Believe DeepSeek Crashed NVIDIA's Stock." He believes more plausible is that some traders were tipped off to the administration's plans for tariffs on chips made in Taiwan.
I guess, I mean, you read it. I mean, you just in class last Monday, as that whole business is coming apart, and what's DeepSeek, and where are they for real, not for real? Did they really did they cheat? Did they, you know, I guess I don't know. There's still questions out there. I mean, who knows? But certainly there's been a new a new metric bar or something out there that's been put out there, and we'll wait and see what the total response is. But at least I really appreciated Tim's perspective here. That, oh my goodness, maybe placing tariffs on chips made in Taiwan might affect NVIDIA stock uh, value. And when the announcement is made to people like me, the stock does nothing, it stays flat. Whereas before I heard about it, oh, ba ba boom. Thank you, Tim. You may have hit the
Dollar
nail on
short,
the
is that what
head.
you're saying?
Whoa. You mean institutions found out about it before little old me?
Interesting. So, I mean, I'd be curious to hear what your students had to say and what their thoughts are about the
Well,
DeepSeek and
hey, what takes place in my class
stays in
stays
your
in my class. That's the Kornhauser in class Las Vegas rule. We discuss a lot of things in my class. Geez, if people knew what we discuss in my class, they would be very upset with me. So, thank you.
You mentioned Waymo before, Alan. They're expanding self-driving testing to more cities, including Las Vegas and San Diego, and I think the list will go on. Um, and I guess you pointed out that they've been invited previously to this neck of the woods.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to upstate New York. To get to upstate New York, you almost have to pass through Jersey. They're going to Tokyo. What? What? How do you go to all these other places when I don't know, when you really haven't, in the places that you are, you haven't really done much, or not done much in terms of our book, riding rides, the people who really need a ride. You mean there's no low hanging fruit there? We got to. Oh, we want to do the most challenging. Oh, great. I don't know. I guess the way I've approached things and the way I try to, maybe even, I shouldn't say I say this in class, because I said we have the Las Vegas rule, but easy to make a problem too hard, trivial. Me, the challenges make it easy enough so you can do something. And there may be easy places where you could actually deliver a whole heck of a lot of good. I hope that in LA they're in Watts before they go to Tokyo. Why not? Doesn't it play well in Silicon Valley? Doesn't it play well in the moonshot world? Why does a moonshot have to do everything? Why doesn't it do something? Whoa. What happened to the concepts of low-hanging fruit that have real value, that deliver real societal value? Selfie? Ooh, really? I don't know. I get myself into trouble all the time.
Alan, when I first heard the DeepSeek story, a comment that you've made fairly often, I guess, that our listeners and viewers would recognize was that you kept speculating that there needs to be a more elegant solution when it comes to the code or the technology here for mobility. And when I, read about DeepSeek, of course, we don't know what the real story is necessarily with it, but that came to mind because it shook everybody up.
Yeah, I think it looks as if they've taken some very interesting ways to be able to estimate the values of what is it, 405 million billion gazillion coefficients. I mean, it boggles my imagination to think, I sometimes say, yeah, I think I can understand one dimension, maybe two dimensions, maybe three dimensions. Get to four dimensions, my mind goes like, "Who? I can't fathom it." Millions and billions of dimensions, and I need to estimate coefficient values for each of those suckers. That's what they do in how many whatever GPU hours. These are GPU hours. I mean, every time I look at how many floating point instructions are required to estimate these things, it's in I don't know. Did I really? I can't. 10 to the 23rd or something. I don't even know what 10 to the 23rd floating. I mean, even if I do 10 to the 18th of these things per second, I still have 5 more dimensions of seconds to be able to do this, or whatever, or 5 more dimensions, 5 more zeros, 5 more orders of magnitudes. I mean, these are big numbers that the folks who are doing this have been playing with. And here's somebody, tips into the room and says, "Hey, yo, I'm several orders of magnitude of these guys under you, more than several." I think you have to open your eyes and take a look. Now, whether or not they cheated, I think also one has to take a look. Okay? Because I would imagine it's easy to hot start. Maybe. Okay, yeah. I mean, if you hot start, then that means, out of 400 or whatever number of values, you got an initial. Otherwise, what's your initial guess? 1, 0, random number between da 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 da. But if you have a hot start, ooh, where'd you get that? Or whatever. I don't know. I mean, and unfortunately, I'm not into the detail. I mean, I had to, when Chen Yi and I were doing this stuff with, did it with Chen Yi, it just got too big, too expensive. I can't play there. Just, and hey, I'm not good enough to play there. But
And there are security concerns being raised. I understand the Navy, the military is saying no, we're not gonna touch it, et cetera.
who knows? I mean, everybody said I wouldn't read anything. I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. Who knows? Everybody's speculating. Da da dee. They sort of do. No, and the story will come on, but they may also be for real. And if they're not for real, we should still think about the kinds of things they put out there in terms of the way they approach this, the way they structured it, the way they did that, the way they sort of understand intermediate results, and so on and so forth. And there must be some sort of structure behind doing some of these things. But they could have also taken some shortcuts that are, uh, whatever. But if, who knows? And it's kind of fun now. So I guess we're going to jump into it. Who knows what we'll find? We're certainly going to, I think we're going to have a really good semester. We're going to have a lot of fun in class. And we have Chunk of Movie coming in on Wednesday, and we'll talk about all kinds of stuff anyway. And we have Jamie Iannone coming from eBay coming in later, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So anyway, um, we'll see what happens.
Just terrific. Tell Chunka hello from me.
Yeah, Chunk is great. Love Chunka.
He is. Speaking of friends, our friend Michael Sena has a new edition of the Dispatcher out.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we'll have a discussion online for everybody in the near future on that.
yeah, and once again, it's certainly again worth reading. He sits there, and I think at least raises some issues, whether you agree, disagree, or whatever. Who knows where any of us are given the new administration, the new whatevers, the new clickbait that's out there. I'm going to try to stay away from the clickbait. I'm tired of it. I do have one come on man statement comment in the newsletter, but I guess me sitting there uh, that way is not as constructive as it used to be, if
And
it was ever constructive.
you can find the newsletter, Michael's newsletter, at michaellsena.com. And that's going to do it for our first edition of the year on and your
Well, that's good, and
newsletter.
we have a lot of work to do. We've been putting this work into this technology, and I think a lot of people have been putting work into the AI technology too. I think it's time to begin to reflect as to both of these. How can they really help us with some of our challenges? Help us be more creative as to in the approach of things, and that we would like to have out there. And certainly in the mobility space in the USA, where we have whatever kind of development and living distributions and so on society that we have, what might help some people who for a while now have really had limited mobility opportunities, that all of a sudden this technology could let them benefit from mobility the way many of us benefit from mobility that don't have those limitations. To me, that's the opportunity of smart driving cars, in addition to making cars safer and so on and so forth on a crash basis. You know, Gabe on his way up to JFK to pick up uh, Elizabeth and I need a ride home, so he came to pick us up, and unfortunately, he got rear-ended. At exit 9. Why are people being rear-ended anymore? You mean we don't have technology and essentially all the fleet out there that that precludes being rear-ended? Even if you're going at under 20 miles an hour. What? Why don't we have that out there? Why, really? It just, luckily nobody got hurt. Luckily, the damage is whatever minimal. But really, why are things still rear ender, low speed? What? Can't do that. But essentially, close to probability one, no rear end. But I guess we'll get there. Hopefully, the new administration will finally say, "This is silly." The best crash is a no crash. Come on, Elon, do that one.
Automatic emergency braking.
It works. Oh, but I do have to point out, I think I didn't point it out in the newsletter. The new Model Y has a camera in the front bumper. I'm calling it a Calvo camera. if Kyle would have only had that in his cruise vehicles, Cruise would still be cruising along. Unfortunately, they ran into an unknown. And of course, none of us know what we don't know. And what happened? It killed Cruise. I think we called it. We said it almost immediately post October 2nd, 2023. I don't know. You can go back and check me. Every one of these vehicles is now going to have a camera in the front bumper. I haven't heard that Waymo has yet implemented that. I don't know if Tesla heard our podcast or Zoomcast or read the e-letter, but we certainly had it in there and talked about it. And it should have been obvious to the most casual observer once we knew that known. Geez, put a camera in the front bumper. So when you start, you can actually tell whether or not there's something that you can't pass over or that you're going to run over. And of course, put a washing system on that to clean that camera. But realize that that camera only operates when you're going zero velocity forward. Well, I guess you zero velocity forward is silly, and go into forward. But when you're standing still, you know that. Turn it on. Look, if something's there that you can't easily go over, don't. I mean, you don't even need Cursor AI or cursor.com to write that code. Boom, done. When you're going at anything greater than a couple miles an hour, turn the darn thing off. Because your other cameras would have seen enough of what is ahead for you to know and see if anything flew in there to do da. I mean, something could pop it instantaneously out of the ground. Some Michael Jackson. Chances of that are 10 to the minus who knows what. Take that risk. But the possibility, I ran over my dog once. Happened to me. My car didn't have a camera in the front bumper. I started out in the driveway, and Benny was laying there in front of the car. I had to build Penn Animal Hospital a whole new wing or something like that to get that dog fixed. Got him fixed. Luckily, should have never happened. But Mercedes never put a camera down there. Mercedes never put a sensor down there. Cruise never put a sensor down there. So happy to see that Tesla Model Y, next version, has a camera down there. Check that one. Probability of that sucker happening again, really low. Thank you. We're making progress.
Well done, Alan.
That's it. Progress is tough.
And the dog story had a fairly happy ending. So
Yeah, it had a happy ending, and I hope that woman. I haven't followed up. I don't know. I hope the guy that hit her, the hit and run guy, was found and properly dealt with. Haven't heard about that one either. Maybe one of our listeners or readers will let us know about that, but I'm not going to chase it. Let society deal with that.
terrific. Well, the website, once again, for more is smartdrivingcar.com. We appreciate your taking the time to listen or watch. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Stay tuned for more and stay safe.
And enjoy February, Black History Month. Go for it.
Art Month.
Art Month. Who knows what other month?
And I'll remind you in time, because you have time, for Elizabeth, it's going to be Valentine's Day as well.
Yeah, thank you. I needed that reminder because otherwise I'm in trouble.